Welcome to this explainer. If you're a focused learner looking to totally master your procurement strategy, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're taking a highly structured deep dive into the 2026 sourcing landscape for stainless steel flatware in China. We are going to completely dismantle that outdated practice of simple price hunting and introduce you to the sophisticated, modern method of category matching. Seriously, this is all about turning sourcing guesswork into an absolute science.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Look at this global market share. When we're talking about stainless steel utensils, China is producing over 70% of the world's supply. I mean, that is a staggering level of dominance. Understanding this massive scale really sets the stage for the landscape we're about to navigate. You are just looking for a needle in a haystack here. You're navigating a massive, highly specialized industrial machine. And to navigate it successfully, well, you need a map.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The new sourcing era. 2. The geography of excellence. 3. Navigating channels and tiers. 4. The professional evaluation logic. And finally, 5. Workflow and final logistics.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the new sourcing era. Listen, the days of just jumping onto a directory, sorting by the lowest price, and crossing your fingers, those days are completely over. Simple price hunting is honestly a critical mistake for buyers in 2026. The global supply chain has entered this era of incredibly deep specialization. Today, professional buyers use a strategy called category matching. What this means is your primary decision isn't just finding a factory, it's about matching your specific business model, whether you're a high-volume retailer, a private label e-commerce brand, or a hospitality wholesaler, to the exact correct industrial cluster and the correct tier of supplier. If you get that match wrong at the very start, absolutely no amount of negotiation is going to fix your unit economics later.
Moving right along to Section 2, the geography of excellence.
So as we move down the funnel to the regional level to figure out exactly where this high-quality cutlery comes from, this quote really stands out. In the world of procurement, geography is destiny. It sounds a bit dramatic, right? But it is incredibly true, especially in China. China's cutlery production isn't just scattered randomly across the country. It has a highly bifurcated internal landscape. The manufacturing DNA of a specific region literally dictates exactly what kind of product you're going to get.
Check out how distinct this regional divide actually is. It's basically a tale of two cities. On one side, we have the Zhejiang cluster. Zhejiang is the undisputed capital of stainless steel flatware. If your business model requires mass-produced 18/0 or 18/8 sets made through stamping and high-speed polishing, this is your destination. Their whole strength is extreme cost efficiency and massive daily output. It's absolutely perfect for wholesalers or budget e-commerce brands. Then, on the flip side, we have the Yangjiang cluster. While they're super famous for knives, their cutlery manufacturers focus heavily on what's called hardware plus products. This is where you go for superior craftsmanship, things like forging, wood handles, resin inserts, or high-end steak knives. If you're building a premium brand or you're a high-end hospitality supplier, Yangjiang is absolutely your destiny.
Which brings us to Section 3, navigating channels and tiers.
Now that we know where to go, we've got to identify the exact platforms and the types of businesses you'll actually be negotiating with. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast in procurement realities between sourcing on 1688 versus going to direct export-grade factories. Just look at the minimum order quantities, the MOQs. 1688 suppliers might let you start with, say, 50 to 500 units. That makes them ideal for small to mid sellers who are just testing the waters. But direct factories? They demand 1,200 to 3,000 units per style. Why? Because they're doing fully customized production runs with a 35 to 55-day lead time, whereas 1688 is usually just pulling from varied in-stock batches. And even more importantly, notice that compliance row. Direct factories offer full BSCI, ISO, and food-grade certs, which are very often missing entirely from those smaller 1688 sources.
Let's break this down even further and look at the manufacturer tiers in this ecosystem, starting right at the top with Tier 1. These are the integrated industrial giants. We're talking about the massive players you'd see at the Canton Fair. They own the entire workflow from processing the raw stainless steel coils all the way to final packaging, and they operate in these massive, highly automated facilities. The absolute crucial takeaway here is this. If your brand requires perfect consistency and strict ethical auditing, like BSCI or SMETA compliance, these Tier 1 giants are essential. They're practically your only option. But be prepared for pretty rigid pricing and high MOQs, because they definitely do not do small test orders.
Then we step into Tier 2, the specialized OEM and ODM factories. These guys, usually found on the outskirts of Jiang, are incredibly agile. They are trend followers, and they are highly responsive to Western designs. If you want a totally unique mold or a trending finish, like a matte champagne gold, or maybe an ultra-minimalist Nordic silhouette, this is exactly where you go. They offer way better quality than the smaller traders, but they are so much more flexible than those Tier 1 giants. For private label brands wanting to really stand out, Tier 2 is the absolute sweet spot for professional sourcing agents.
And finally, we have Tier 3, the 1688 verified source factories. Basically, these are your smaller, super efficient workshops. Their absolute biggest advantage is speed to market. Let's say you want to jump on a new rose gold flatware trend. You can swoop in and buy just 200 sets to test the water. However, the big risk here is consistency. Technical specifications, like the exact weight per piece or the nickel content, can wildly fluctuate between batches simply because they're pulling from whatever inventory happens to be available that day.
Moving right along to Section 4, the professional evaluation logic.
So, this brings us to the microscope phase of our funnel, where we skip the generic questions and zoom right into granular quality tests. Let me ask you this directly. When you place an order, are you really getting 1810 steel? This brings us to what industry insiders call the 1810 fallacy. You see, many suppliers will gladly claim they're giving you 18% chrome and 10% nickel, but they actually deliver 18O. Why would they do that? Because nickel is incredibly expensive. It is the magic ingredient that provides that high corrosion resistance and that beautiful deep luster.
So how do you combat this fallacy? You absolutely need to rely on the spectro test. This is a highly specialized analysis performed on the raw materials before production even begins, just to verify the exact grade of the stainless steel. In 2026, with raw material costs fluctuating as wildly as they do, a spectro test is a mandatory requirement. You have got to ensure your contract explicitly locks in the grade of steel, and the spectro test? That is your insurance policy.
Now, beyond the actual material, the cost of a fork mostly comes down to the time it spends on the polishing wheel. You've got Grade A mirror polish, which gives a crystal clear reflection with 0 polishing lines. Then, Grade B hand polish, which has a good shine but maybe some slight shadows on the curves. And Grade C tumble polish, which is your basic economy canteen-style finish. But here is the most tactile test you can do, and I love this one. I want you to literally imagine picking up a fork and running your finger through the inner edges of the fork tines. A high-quality manufacturer uses a specialized tine polishing machine to make those inner edges completely smooth. If you run your finger through it and it feels sharp, rough, or burred, you are holding a low-end product. And that right there, that will lead to immediate customer complaints and even safety issues.
Let's move to and see how this all builds into Section 5, workflow and final logistics.
Entering the final exit phase of our funnel, here's your actual playbook for taking all this knowledge and getting the physical product safely to your warehouse. This is the precise chronological sequence a professional buyer must follow. Step 1 is the technical RFQ. Don't just ask how much. You need to provide a strict spec sheet detailing the weight, the thickness, the material grade, and the exact polishing requirement. Step 2 is sample consolidation. Use a sourcing agent to collect samples from different clusters and compare them side by side in natural daylight. Step 3 is the testing phase. And Step 4 is the pre-shipment inspection, or PSI. Never ever ship without a third-party inspection using strict acceptable quality levels, especially checking for pitting and scratches on the polish.
I actually want to jump back to Step 3 for just a second, the rust test. And this brilliantly illustrates how a really simple practical test can literally save your entire investment. During your sample phase, you take the cutlery and you fully submerge it in a high salt water solution for 24 to 48 hours. This super aggressive environment mimics years of harsh dishwasher cycles in just a couple of days. It serves as the ultimate undeniable revealer of true stainless steel quality before you commit to a massive order. Finally, we reach the logistics of actually moving the product. Keep in mind, cutlery is heavy. It's high density, which makes it extremely sensitive to sea freight fluctuations. Your shipping strategy has to match your buyer profile perfectly. If you're a bulk buyer, you must utilize full container loads, or FCL, to minimize your per-unit landing costs. Honestly, it's the only way the math works at scale. Conversely, if you're an e-commerce seller testing out trends using 1688, you should consolidate multiple smaller orders into one less-than-container load, or LCL shipment. This strategy is absolutely vital to save on those expensive first-mile costs within China.
So, we've covered the geography,
the different tiers, the hidden fallacies, and the rigorous testing required to actually succeed here, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to consider. Is your supply chain ready to upgrade from simple price hunting to true category matching? Because let me tell you, in the 2026 landscape, applying this blueprint isn't just an advantage anymore, it is the absolute baseline for mastery. Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and I really hope you feel completely equipped and confident for your next sourcing negotiation.